Hello and welcome to the Wisden Cricket Weekly podcast. Yaz will be back next week, but for now, I'm your host, Ben Gardner, and with me are Katya Witney and Phil Walker. We'll be discussing the three England squads announced last week, the 100, the One Day Cup, and all the goings-on in the world of international cricket. But first, let's go to Mark Butcher for his thoughts on those England squads. Mark, the Harry Brook era resumes in a couple of weeks' time, but the big talking point is in that series where he's not captain. England have rested their first choice test players from the Ireland T20I tour after the South Africa series, and that means Jacob Bethell will become England's youngest ever captain across formats, beating the record set by Monty Bowden, who was 23 years and 144 days old when he led England in a test in 1889. Bethell is yet to turn 22. What do you make of that?
It's remarkable, isn't it? in lots of ways. Here is a cricketer who has an enormous amount of promise. As a batter in long form cricket, he's made a little bit more of a mark so far in the shorter formats. Has played next to no cricket all summer. You mentioned the fact that he's 21 and he's had an entire English summer where he has been fit and has played little to no cricket of any meaning whatsoever. And here he is as England's youngest ever captain. It's one of those ones that's quite difficult to explain to even somebody like me, let alone people who probably pay a passing interest into English cricket or England's cricket teams. And therefore I don't really know what to make of it. I don't know whether I think it's quite a difficult thing to ask him to do, simply as he has so much to learn and so much experience to garner from merely being a player. And you could argue at every level, let alone at international level. But it's also a sign that England see him as very much a sort of a leading figure for them in the future. The fact that they've arrived at a point where he is at the future before he's actually had any sort of past, is something that people will argue the toss about right the way up until such a time as he starts playing more regularly for anybody, let alone for England. So, I mean, hearty congratulations, his family in Barbados and the rest of it. His rise in international cricket, in the cricketing world, has been nothing short of mercurial. And now, I suppose, that the onus is upon him to deliver on all of the trust and hope that those who are selecting teams have placed in him. There's another side to the Bethell captaincy selection, and it goes back to something that's pretty old school, but I think it's still relevant, and that is that England caps, captaining your country, all of these things, they're prestigious things, and to me it always feels as though that there needs to have been there has to have been an element of you having earned that right, in order to keep it as a meaningful thing. You know, if these are things are just throwaway gongs, you get a throwaway test cap, you're made captain of England, the youngest ever captain of England, but there hasn't really been any sense that this was a position or a gong that has been earned by dint of performance or consistency of being in the team or any of those things. And so when selectors do this, or when people are given positions like that, there's always that kind of that, and it might even be a nagging doubt in the player himself as do I really deserve this at this point in time? I think you have to be very, very careful when it comes to handing out sort of honours like that. That there is a sense that they've been genuinely earned and deserved by the person they're being bestowed upon. And this, of course, is not, Jacob Bethell didn't select himself as captain, so it's up to It's up to other people to make those calls. But I'm always slightly nervous isn't the right word, but I'm always slightly sort of skeptical of the idea that you hand out these things on the promise of something that might happen in the future. I think that there needs to be a sense that a position like that should be 100% earned by dint of the things that you've done on the field.
On the people who are actually doing the selection, do you ever get the feeling that they are almost trying to be too clever but show how clever they are? Like, there's lots of picks that are like, it's almost like they want to do the not obvious thing, partly because they're just challenging orthodoxy, but also maybe partly that they almost enjoy that side of it, of taking a punt and it being right, rather than just making the obvious call or the safe call and that also being right. There's satisfaction in the first thing, which there isn't in the second thing, but it doesn't mean the second thing isn't a good thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, possibly. And I'm sure if we sat down with Brendan or Rob Key or Luke Wright or whoever else, they'd have good reasons as for why they've done it. I mean, one thing that it does do, and we haven't spoken about Ireland at all in any of this, or South Africa, but sticking to the Ireland series for now, it kind of shows a bit of a lack of respect for them and their cricket. And we're not in the business to make other people feel good about themselves. That's for sure. But it also kind of says, you know what, this is a bit of a throwaway 3 matches that nobody's really that interested in, and we'll do what we jolly well like. And not be too worried about whatever the consequences might be.
Yeah, it's the Ireland team talk done for them.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, it'll piss down for a week and he'll drink a lot of Guinness probably, but there you go.
What more could a 21-year-old want?
Captain of a stag do to Dublin. There you go.
This captaincy thing has almost obscured the fact that he's in all 3 squads as well, which obviously, and England have to balance there, giving white ball cricket more precedence, which they weren't doing in the lead up to that 2023 World Cup, but also obviously this Ashes series coming up, and it means basically that he's going to go into that winter having played 2 red ball games all summer, basically. Is there an argument that he should have just gone and played 3 games for Warwickshire in that time, played against a good attack at the Oval, that sort of thing? Or is he going to learn as much sort of playing against, I don't know, Mafaka and Rabada in the Stafford ODIs as he would have done against Dan Worrell at the Oval?
Well, I mean, he's in England's sort of ODI team, isn't he? I mean, he was at the start of the season, and so therefore he's in that side by right. Whether or not it's necessary for him to miss yet more red ball cricket and captain the England side in Ireland, which frankly they've sort of stripped out all of the main players from that series anyway. Sort of notable exceptions given the sort of second string nature of that squad are the people like Jordan Cox, Liam Livingstone, Sam Curran. Livingstone has only just recently captained England white ball teams on a tour of the West Indies. Sam Curran, I would say, is now in a position whereby he could genuinely sort of be in the conversation around being a like for like replacement for Stokes in the Test team should England find themselves in that sort of position again, and also is undoubtedly a high quality white ball player as well. So was it necessary for Jacob Bethell to kind of take on this role and play in those games in the absence of more, let's say, meaningful cricket, given what's coming up with the Ashes? And I think there's a very strong argument that is absolutely the case. Yes.
What is going on? I mean, Livingstone and Curran are 2 separate cases, I guess. Livingstone, maybe it feels sort of reasonably final now, given that he's had a very good 100 and we kind of know what he can do. And so that they've not brought him in, having dropped him early in the summer, it's not like we sent you away to refine form. It's like we've seen you and we sort of don't want you anymore. But Curran it's a really interesting case, isn't it? Because Like there was a time when England were picking him for everything, and now they're picking him for nothing, it doesn't feel like what he does has changed. So is it just that McCullum just doesn't fancy him, or what is it?
I don't know, actually. I honestly don't know, because I think over the last 18 months at least, but probably going back to probably 2 years, he's become an even better cricketer than he was. Obviously with the bat, he's massively underrated. I think he's an excellent batter in all formats of the game. And we've had this conversation before about the roles that when he was being picked regularly, he kind of wasn't ever in a role where he was most likely to shine. And that is in T20 cricket, sort of bowling at the end, not bowling in the middle in ODIs. And if he's going to be in the batting order, he's probably better off being top 6 than he is 7, 8 or whatever, in terms of his skills. So look, I mean, it's an interesting one. He seems to be on the outside at the moment, but I think as a cricketer, he's the sort of player that you want. He's kind of like somebody that rises to the big moments, somebody who is fiercely combative and is highly skillful. And so he is someone that will come again, I'm sure. But at the moment, I'm not entirely sure why he's been completely discarded, because I think if anything, he's gone up a notch or two since he's been left out.
Yeah, I guess at some point as well, there will be different people in charge of the team, and they may just feel differently about it.
I don't know. I don't know whether or not it's because they don't fancy him. I think they're just looking at other options at the moment. But there's also a fact that some of England's more sort of established white ball players are getting a bit long in the tooth, and so there will be a sort of a generational change at some point in the near future. And I'd be very surprised if Sam Curran wasn't a major part of that.
I guess the other eye-catching selection in 2 of the 3 squads is Sonny Baker, who's got his maiden England call-up. Had an amazing year, so only made his first-class debut in January for the Lions, and then a couple of fivers in the county championship. Looked good in the 100, got a hat-trick, been tipped as a potential Ashes bolter by some people, and now this call-up. What should we expect from him when he takes the field?
He's a really impressive kid, actually. I met him for the first time in the Guyana Global Super League when he was playing for Hampshire last November. And he, everybody sort of sat up and watched when he bowled, because he's got genuine pace. Really, really slippery. And as his sort of this summer has gone on, and he's got out and played more cricket, he's shown that there's more to him than just merely hurling it down there very quickly. Can bowl a really good Yorker, good changes of pace, and absolutely loves it. Absolutely sort of loves the contest and loves being out there and playing and bowling fast. And so I mean, he has got all the promise in the world. It's another case of young bowlers. He's had injuries in the past, and has managed to sort of stay on the park for most of the summer, and you're seeing the dividends of that. So I mean, he's got a very, very bright future. He just sort of touch wood that his body stays healthy, and anything could happen from there. I mean, England at the moment, we're throwing it forward to the Ashes, have quite an embarrassment of riches when it comes to available fast bowlers. Presuming that Mark Wood is fit and that Stokes is okay. You've got Tongue, you've got Carse, you've got Archer, Atkinson, Baker, possibly. England have a lot of options of very good, and on the upper side of the pay scale, fast bowlers to take to Australia. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if Sonny Baker was in the conversation.
Yeah, and there'll be that Lions tour that goes alongside it, and if it all goes all goes pear-shaped, then
Well, no, exactly. I mean, the people, there will be injuries, but at the moment, on paper, England have got probably 6 or 7, if you include Stokes in that as well. Very viable fast bowling options. And then that doesn't include Chris Woakes. So, we're not entirely sure what's happening with him in the shoulder. I don't think he's having surgery. I think that's been avoided. So there's a chance that he might be available for selection. Whether or not he was part of the plans in the first place or not, I don't know. But without somebody like Chris Woakes, England have got a lot of options fast bowling wise. They're in actually much better shape than they have been at any point during the course of this summer. Come October and that plane leaving, I would imagine.
Well, Butch, always good to chat. Go and get yourself some cough medicine, and then we'll chat next week.
Yeah, all right, cheers.
Phil.
Yeah. Hi.
This Bethell thing, I guess. Look, I talked with Mark a lot about the captaincy thing in particular and what that means when that's the right thing. But in a way, it's interesting that he's in these squads at all, right? Given that this now means that, he's going to go into the Ashes and the only 2 Red Bull games have played all year, or he'll have played 2 Red Bull games all year, 1 in the County Championship, 1 in that Test match where he looked like he could have done with playing a few more Red Bull games, and now he won't. What do you make of it?
I mean, it might have been tempting for them to play him in the Warwickshire games. I'd have liked to have seen it. I'd have liked to have seen him play in a huge game at the Oval in early September, where Warwickshire are still just about in the mix. If they'd won that game at the Oval, then you never know for the run-in for the championship. And it would have been great to see him in the whites. And I'd have probably preferred to see him in the whites. And I think in the long term, that may be more beneficial to his progression. But, we know where the England crowd, where the Brains Trust stand on this thing. They have a healthy disregard for county form. And Bethell is seen as such an outlandish talent that getting miles in the legs as a county cricketer, as a 4-day player, getting that first 100 over the line, they see that as secondary to him playing in front of packed houses against top quality ODI attacks. And I guess there is an element of pragmatism there as well, in that they need points. They're 7th or 8th, I think, in the ODI qualifying table. And so these games are not mere exhibition showcase things. These are heavy duty cricket matches against a good quality side in South Africa. And they see his progression as better served playing for England in September rather than Warwickshire. When you saw the squad announced, it made a mockery of any of our conversations in the build-up, really, because we just thought, why did we even bother wasting our breath imagining that they may swerve away from England games and get him into that Warwickshire side? So it doesn't surprise me. I would have liked to have seen him play some more 4-day cricket. I'd like to have seen him play more cricket full stop across the summer. But these things can be quite transient, right? And assuming that he will be in that Australia squad, that Ashes squad, as the spare batter, then they'll have 2 or 3 practice games and he might go out there and feel like he's in good nick. He looks in better nick, by the way, for having played a few games for the Phoenix. And arguably, peeling off a 50-ball 80 at number 6 against South Africa, wherever it may be in mid-September, has more lasting value to his self-esteem and self-belief than scrapping away for Warwickshire in the Champo. So look, I can understand it. He is an outlier. He batted 3 for England without a first-class 100. Unheard of. And he looked pretty good at doing it. So, I think we have to accept that the landscape has shifted, the way that they identify talent has shifted, and the way that they use the players at their disposal has shifted.
Mm.
I think it's worth outlining exactly why they might see more value in having Bethell in the white ball squads rather than having him play for Warwickshire. Like, if you think about it, Bethell's not currently in England's first choice Test 11, right? He likely won't be in the first 11 that plays in Australia, barring injury or whatever happens. So either way, there's going to be a big gap between cricket, whether he plays for Warwickshire or whether he doesn't play for Warwickshire. What are England going to find out about him by playing for Warwickshire? They probably see, in fact, they almost certainly see, he will score a first-class century at some point. That just will happen. So what's the point in kind of rushing it when, as Phil says, you could get him in front of packed houses? With the captaincy thing, what do you want to find out about him? They already think that Bethell is going to be someone who dominates English cricket for the next decade or so across all formats. So what more do they want to find out? They want to find out how he performs under the pressure of leading a side where there are far more experienced players in it than him. So I think from their point of view, they'll find out far more about him, getting him to captain in Ireland, getting him to play those ODIs, getting him to play the T20s, rather than having him for Warwickshire and knowing that he's quite a good 4-day cricketer, which he will eventually be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess he'll eventually, in the long run, he will definitely be totally fine and very good for England in every format, I'm sure. I guess the question is that with that, will it happen quickly enough for that Ashes when it comes around? And that the worry, I guess, watching him in that Oval Test match was that this was a player who you maybe felt, firstly, you hadn't just had loads of time in the middle, which I guess he'll get either way. So maybe that's not so much an issue, but also maybe a player who almost wasn't sure what the way to go about grafting in that kind of difficult situation was, where you can't just, ramp one or slog one over mid-wicket and then you're away, where you do maybe have to dig in a bit. And you might find that out a bit more, coming in at, 120 for, 30 for one or whatever, and Dan Worrell's nipping it around and Matt Fisher's doing his thing but then I guess the other way is that, he'll also have to be we know he's good against fast bowling, but you can never face too much of that to get better at it. And facing Rabada might be better preparation for facing Pat Cummins than facing Jordan Clark.
Yeah.
For sure. But I think on the kind of timescale that we're looking at, there's going to be very little difference between him playing for Warwickshire. Like if we're talking a season or a good chunk of the season, then maybe, yeah. But on the timescale we're looking at and the gap that we're looking at between games anyway, I'm not sure. Maybe on balance it might be slightly more beneficial for him to play for Warwickshire, but I'm not sure the balance is so huge that it's going to be so monumental when it comes to the Ashes, even if he does play.
Yeah. No, overall, you're right. This is one of these stories that feels like it has some sort of currency now, but which drifts away quite quickly. And once the serious stuff of the winter comes, whether he scrapes 100 against Surrey or whoever over the next few weeks, or whether he plays in the ODIs, is not going to really mean that much when it comes down to it. And you said last week on one of the many shows that we do, it would be faintly ludicrous for him to go into an Ashes series as a spare batter without 100 behind him. I don't think it's that important, because I just don't think that he or the setup think like that anymore. And, if we are arguing the toss, if he middles that cover drive in the second Test match, then we wouldn't be having that conversation either. So I think it's one of these things that feels important. I think what has been problematic is the dearth of cricket up until now, for sure. He's a kid. It's in the job spec to play as much cricket as you possibly can, and you absorb information residually, almost subliminally. You subliminate all of it, and you build yourself up as a cricketer. And he's not played enough cricket, and smashing it in the nets, even if Virat Kohli's next to you or Harry Brooks next to you. There's no substitute for being put in the situations that he should have been in up until now, and that has been questionable, no doubt about it. But whether he should play for Warwickshire or England, I don't think it means that much, really. It doesn't shift the dial for me that much when it comes to the big stuff in the winter. What I am interested in, by the way, and sorry if I'm jumping the gun, is whether in the fullness of that Ashes tour, he is the automatic number 7 batter, or if perhaps there are one or two other options in there as well. And they're going to take a bloated squad, we think, right? And there's going to be an A team as well, a Lions team as well. And I wonder if we might yet see a Jordan Cox or a similar kind of player perhaps yet come in to that setup, and they have maybe a squad of 18 with a couple of options, rather than just assuming that he has to be the man.
Yeah, Rian Armour would be an interesting player in that conversation as well. And they're both interesting in the conversation around these squads, actually, because Rian Armour's in all three, but Jordan Cox is in none of them. And he kind of seems to have the misfortune of being pretty much England's 8th best player in kind of every format. Just played an amazing innings in the 100, 10 sixes and 29 balls, and the competition's highest ever total, another 50 yesterday. And he's not totally out of their thoughts, because he was in that Zimbabwe squad before he got a side strain. And I guess it's just an interesting thing where, like, there's some reservations I guess England seem to have about him versus the high pace bowling. And even in the County Championship this year, it was Eddie Jack, I think, got him with one that sort of that bounced a lot, and he looked a bit ungainly getting tangled up. But equally, he keeps scoring so many runs for Essex in the County Championship, and he's still kind of the sort of player they like, even if he's not quite as outlandish a talent as a Bethell or a Brook or a Smith. And you wonder if there could be some pragmatism at some point over him or versus Bethell, when you have a guy who just knows how to score runs, basically, versus a guy who hasn't yet shown he can grind those out and figure out in those situations. I don't know, Katya.
Yeah, I wonder how different the conversations we would be having right now would be if Cox hadn't broken his finger in New Zealand. Because he doesn't break his finger, he plays that first test match. Bethell doesn't score, half century in his debut test. He doesn't score that 90 maybe in the final test. What if Cox scores a rapid half century, saves that test? Could be such a different picture of the entire team, which when you look at the consequence of a finger break, seems really odd that is the moment that kind of drives a team in one direction. But I think he just is really unfortunate, and every single time he gets that kind of chance, he seems to get injured. And that being England's 8th best batter is a kind of thing. I don't really see him going on the main squad to the Ashes. I feel like they've kind of laid their cards down in terms of who they see as those kinds of players, and particularly with the fact that he's not in these squads to play the white ball stuff. I think he's just kind of below even like the periphery players who might come in, if that makes sense, which is interesting in itself, I guess.
I think I'd agree with you if it wasn't for the keeping situation. And I know that people will say, well, Pope can be the designated second keeper. But if Pope is your number 3 and Pope scores runs in the first test match, or if he looks like he's got the game to stick it out across 5 games, and then Smith breaks a finger, they're not going to want to move their number 3 down to number 7. And then bring in potentially Bethell at number 3, not in an Ashes series, I don't think. I think they'd be more minded to have a like-for-like second keeper. So that's where I think he might end up going on that tour. But look, we can discuss that till we're blue in the face over the next couple of months. I do think he's an interesting player. I know we're throwing it around a little bit here, but I do think he's an interesting cricketer, Jordan Cox, right? He's 24 years old. So he's the perfect age for this team. He's made the best part of 4,000 first-class runs already at a good average, considering that 35 is a good average these days, and he averages best part of 42. Speaking to Tom Wesley as captain at Essex last week, and he said to me, you don't realise how good this kid is. And this was before he'd made these statement knocks in the 100. He said he's too good for county cricket. First division to county cricket, he's too good. The caveat, or the fly in the ointment, if you like, is this perception that, as you've already alluded to, that he might be a little bit iffy against the short stuff, against the real quick stuff. Jofra Archer got in amongst him last night in the Brave versus Invincibles game. And look, he's made a 30-ball 50, so that's perhaps his answer to that. But there is this little murmur under the surface of the game that perhaps there's an area there that he would need to work on in international cricket. But I would say in defence of him, firstly, there's not a massive body of evidence. Secondly, in part because you very rarely face bowlers like that on tracks that are quick and lively in county cricket. But thirdly, even if that is possibly the case, good players, they work it out over time. There's many a player who's come in initially and not been massively comfortable against international pace. But if you're good, then you work it out. Bairstow's a good example. Joe Root's a good example. Joe Root, in the early days, I remember talking to Graham Thorpe about this, and he's saying against the slow bowlers, he's magnificent. Against the quicks, he has a few things to work on as a young kid. So I wouldn't be concerned at all about his chances of making runs at international cricket. I think he's a seriously good player. And he's clearly modelled himself on A.B. de Villiers as well. When I watch him, the shapes he makes, the crouch in the backlift, the kookaburra bat, all the rest of it, he models himself clearly on AB. And although the 100 comes with this asterisk, which I think is being smudged away slowly but surely, but when you go like that in front of big audiences against good quality attacks, and that 80-odd and 20-odd balls that you mentioned, that was a freak innings. That's the best innings that I've seen in the 100. And these innings do matter. They do scrape the surface. And I wonder if the squad if they'd sat down to name this squad a week and a half ago, because I mean he's number 3 now in the best team in the competition, and he's dominating games that he's playing in, and his first class record is outstanding. And I wonder if he may have crept into that white ball side if they'd sat down a week after they did, having seen what he's done. I think he's in the mix for all kinds of stuff for England for a number of years. But we shall see.
So drilling down a bit more deeply into these squads, the T21 is the more interesting one for me, given that's where England's next World Cup is. I guess the big decision is over Phil Salt and how and even if he fits back in. So he missed that West Indies series on paternity leave. The top 6 for that series was Duckett, Smith, Butler, Brooke, Bethell and Banton. So I guess you'd say Smith and Banton are the two there who might be the most vulnerable, but Jamie Smith is Jamie Smith, who they really like, and he ended that series really well with a 50, and then Banton is in a different role to Salt, so you might have to reshuffle the order, and it was that difficult finisher's role which he's shown signs of being able to get right. Katya, what do you think they will and what do you think they should do?
I feel like I have a bit of a blind spot when it comes to Phil Salt. As in, I know he's played good innings in an England shirt, the West Indies stuff. I just either don't remember them or have subconsciously deleted them from my brain. And I automatically am drawn towards Jamie Smith because I think, like, obviously he's going to be a generational player for England, in my opinion anyway. And he should be opening in as many formats as possible. And he should be in every 11 you can get him into as much as possible. And when I look at Jamie Smith is going to be in England's best team for such a long time. And I just, Salt is an incredible T20 player, but he just doesn't give that same feeling as Smith does for me. And I genuinely, I just think I'm a bit biased against Phil Salt because of that kind of deletion of the good innings he's played in England shirts. And Jamie Smith, I think, should have that opportunity to open in formats. So I don't really see. I think the more interesting discussion is between Salt and Banton, to be honest, because I think Smith is a separate kind of entity, in my opinion. So I think the most likely thing they'll do is they will put Smith in and shuffle their order in some way, maybe put Salt at 3, I don't really know. But I think the more interesting conversation is between Salt and Banton rather than Salt and Smith, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Salt's gone pretty well. Well, he went pretty well at the start of the 100 and then has kind of tailed off a little bit, I think.
Yeah, but I think was he the first batter to cross 1,000 runs across the hundreds, however many seasons so far. And he also, the thing with Salt is he has an incredible IPL record.
I was going to come to that.
Yeah, he has a great IPL record and he is genuinely, I'm not like saying Salt is not a great T20 player. Salt is an incredible T20 player. But in terms of... I just don't remember any of it. I just don't remember any of it. I remember some of the IPL stuff, but I don't remember him ever... Obviously he has, this is the thing, he has done it in other competitions, but the IPL stuff is genuinely incredible. He's an incredible T20 batter. But if you're looking at international cricket, I would just prefer Jamie Smith to be in there above Salt.
Yeah, and his record is very skewed towards the Caribbean, where he's made all 3 of his 100s and I think 3 of his 50s as well. So he's got just 2 50s outside of the Caribbean, but one of those was in his most recent game in India, where he made a really quick 50 as England were bundled out for under 100. And yeah, that IPL record, he averages 34 and strikes at 176. And that was as RCB won their first title this year as well. And his overall T20I record, even though there's that caveat, is averaging 34, striking 164.
That's a heavy duty strike rate.
But I wonder if, like, almost if McCullum might have the same blind spot that Katya does. And it's not a blind spot, it's more like a spot of visibility when it comes to Smith.
So the opposite?
Yeah, the opposite.
Okay.
In that, like, is McCullum going to... What's going to be more foremost in McCullum's mind? Is it going to be that Salt had a really good IPL, or is it to be this guy who I'm around all the time hit 100 in a session against India? And that if they're picking just who they think is the better guy at hitting a cricket ball, that might be Smith over Salt, even with all that Salt has done. I don't know.
But I think it's almost a similar association to... It's not quite the same, but Liam Livingstone, in that these guys failed in these tournaments that England notably failed in, like over the winter in the Champions Trophy, not for Salt, if I remember rightly, but these players failed at a point where England were really failing, and I feel like they are tarred with that kind of brush, almost of that association of being these players who were in these roles when England were doing badly, and I feel like that's maybe where the blind spot is coming in, that these incredible T20 players were part of that kind of era, and they shouldn't be going forward. I'm not saying they shouldn't be, but that's how it feels, if that makes sense.
Phil Salt makes my 11 in T20 cricket. I like that they've moved him on from the 50 over side. It didn't work over the winter. It didn't look quite right. He is too ultra aggressive, even to be as a kind of a floater, like a fantasy player up top. They've got enough of them anyway in 50 over cricket. So I like that he's been moved aside in 50 overs. But in T20, personally, he makes my 11. And I wonder if there's not a world in which they can both play, right? So it's you would assume that Buttler would bat 3. He's batting 3 for the originals now, and you want him because he's everything. He can slow heartbeat his way to a runnable 50 against a really good side if you need that, or he can go bonkers if you need that as well. It's a possibility that Duckett could open with Salt, that Buttler could bat 3, and potentially even Smith could bat 4, or even Buttler could bat 4 and Smith could bat 3. So I don't think it's beyond the realms. I see Banton as the bloke on the edge at the moment. I just think, while he's a really interesting player, I don't think he has the body of work across the big tournaments. The fact that Salt has gone to India and done what he's done, he opens now as a fixture in the IPL, and you don't do that unless you're a good player in that format. So look, we'll see how it carves up. But I like overall, I like the squads. I would like to have seen, as I said earlier, I'd like to have seen Cox in there and whatnot. But overall, I quite like how they're carving up these two squads. There's more distinction as well between the 20 and the 50. And I quite like it, really. I like the way that they're thinking. And I really, really like that Rayan Ahmed's now inside, because they've almost kept him under wraps, haven't they? A little bit in white ball cricket. The king is there. Adil is still there and still untouchable. But the sooner they can embed Rayan Ahmed into that side, into the squad at least, the better. And he deserves it, right? He's been phenomenal this year, albeit maybe mainly in red ball cricket, but he has such charisma. You see him when he plays in the 100 as well. He just loves it. And he's a very, very special talent. So I'm really pleased that he's crept in there as well. And I'm pleased for our boy Liam Dawson, right? Pleased that he's been retained as well. He got stung a bit at Old Trafford in that test match, but they see him as part of the white ball setup, as a steady old hand on the tiller. I think this is a good thing. Yeah,
I guess it'll be interesting to see exactly how Rayan Ahmed fits in. I guess in that ODI 11, he's up against Will Jacks for a slot. And in terms of, how England have constructed their 11s in terms of that 2019 World Cup 11, or at least the start of it, Jacks is a lot more in the Moeen Ali mould, and playing 2 wrist spinners isn't something England have done loads. And then in T20Is, they were picking 3 spinners, so there's room for, I guess, 2 Abdul-Rashid plays, and then 2 of Jacks, Dawson and Rayan, and I guess maybe they just juggle those around a bit until they find the best combination. I don't know.
Yeah, and also I guess the pitches that you play on as well. The best move I thought that Brooke McCullum made was to move Jacks into that number 6-7 slot. I think that's a really smart move. He's quite an intelligent cricketer, and they are emboldening him to learn how to play that game. He's such a clean hitter. Obviously, he bowls a bit as well, so he can justify his position anyway as a multifaceted cricketer. But I really like him in there as an option for the next couple of years. And I hope they stick with it. So as I say, I quite like it. I quite like the setup. It's felt like it's been listing for a couple of years, the white ball sides. But there seems like under Brooke now, there's a bit more clarity, I suppose.
I know we're mainly talking about the South Africa squads because the Ireland squad is a little bit cobbled together. But can we talk about how many spinners are in that Ireland squad?
Yeah,
there are so many spinners. You've got Ahmed, Dawson, Jacks, Bethell, Rashid, Hartley.
Hartley as well, yeah.
All of them in there. So you essentially
turns a bit in Dublin, yeah.
Yeah, in September. Are you essentially then treating Jacks and Ahmed as specialist bats if you're getting them in that side? Because you pointed out yesterday that they haven't got an abundance of frontline batters.
No, the top 7 pretty much has to be Bethell, Buttler, Rayan, Banton, Jacks, Salt, and Overton in some order in that Ireland squad, which is not loads of options. Obviously, I guess if someone gets injured, it's not it's a short boat trip or plane trip or whatever they want to do.
It's got an end of season tour vibe to it, isn't it? Give the captaincy to the 21-year-old and see what happens in Ireland in late September.
That's what Butch said. It's going to rain. He's going to basically captain a stag do in Dublin.
Yeah, so. Blatantly.
Yeah. Which is fun. So those series begin in September, but until then, we've got the rest of the 100 taking place. Katya, what's happened in the last week? Your 100 seconds on the 100, if you please.
I was about to say, the thing is on this 100, I don't think I have any perception of what 100 seconds is, especially when I'm thinking about...
Well, that's the thing about it. It's like players took time to figure out how many 100 balls
what I want is like a 100... No, I'm not ready, actually. What I want is like a 100-style graphic counting down, like little bar that goes down on the side of the screen.
And on the other side it counts up and it's really confusing.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want.
Right, ready?
Cool, yeah.
Go. Here's your time.
Tuesday last week, Donovan Ferreira 63 off 29 balls. Sam Curran, rapid 44. Invincible scored 180. Phoenix chased it down, 2 balls remaining. Liam Livingston 69 off 27 was very good. Will Smead, remember him? 51 off 29. Wednesday last week, best game of the competition. I can remember in the last couple of years. I'm probably forgetting one. Southern Brave set Superchargers 140 to win. Superchargers 80 for 5. Look like they're getting nowhere near. Graham Clark, what a hero. 38 off 24 balls. Needs 5 off the last balls. So smashes a 6 over the leg side boundary. His face is absolutely amazing. So go find it on YouTube or TikTok, wherever you want to go.
Minute to go.
A 2-game Wednesday. Josh Tongue, another 3-fer. He's very good. Riley Meredith is better. 4 for 9. Welsh Fire's first win. Nothing massively interesting on Thursday, apart from Jamie Smith scored a half century. Superchargers scored 193. Bethel's first good innings of the competition. Easy win. Saturday was that awful injury to Adam Hose when he slipped in the field. Dislocated ankle, looked like really, really bad. Hope he's getting better. Players had to leave the field for a bit as well. Over Invincible scored 226 in the second game. Jordan Cox already mentioned his 86 off 29 balls. Moment for Tom Curran as well. He took 4 for 15. Sonny Baker, hat-trick in the second games, although it's one of those ones that was separated by like 36 balls because he took the first wicket and then waited and took the second wicket.
15.
Yesterday, Invincibles win again. Moment for Hilton Cartwright as well. One of Southern Brave's 2 overseas players in the 11. Scored 42 out of 133. End of the week. Done. There we go.
Well done. Yeah, I
Very
mean,
good.
We can talk more about it, but good to have all the bases covered off. I mean, that Graham Clark. Let's start with that because that was a great moment, and especially because you say the expression on his face, but it's because he doesn't know he's got it over the rope as he connects, and then he sees that he has, and then the camera zooms out as Mills collapses in front of him. Arch, I think, bowled a brilliant penultimate set in that game.
It was great, wasn't it?
That's what the 100 should be about.
And his interview afterwards is beautiful. Like, I'm euphoric. It's just glorious to see. And
if you think about Graham Clark's face as well, Tamal Mills' face was the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So you've got Graham Clark at one end with a massive beam on his face, and Tamal Mills just kind of keels over onto the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it matters. It matters to him. It matters to his career. It matters to his future. Often these tournaments are as much about the undercard players as the big stars. And you get that in the IPL, and you get that in the Blast as well. You get these players who are journeyman cricketers, and Graham Clark's a very good one, but you don't look down that Superchargers list and say, I can't wait to see Clarkie bat. You know, when you've got Brooke out there and various others, Crawley and so on. So it was a beautiful moment. It needed it actually, because it had been quite a flat first few days or first week or so. There's been quite a few one-sided games. I wonder if there's something about the 100-ball format that finds players betwixt in between 10 overs and 20, and they're not quite sure on the pace. The games have improved, I think, certainly in the men's competition, in the second half of this period, in week 2, as it seems like players are getting used to the unique tempo of 100-ball cricket. But yeah, you're right. That Graham Clark moment was beautiful.
And
A lot of cricket is just quite one-sided, so I think it's fine.
For sure, and you have to factor all of that in. Of course you do.
It says a lot about where the 100 is at this season, that Southern Brave have 2 overseas players at the moment, and one of them is Hilton Cartwright.
Did very well.
Yeah, he did very well, yeah, but I'm actually going to look up the last time he played for Australia because it wasn't recent. And then also the other one is Michael Bracewell. He's on loads of money, but is not like a global megastar. I don't know. Phil, you want to talk about your relationship with the 100 or not really?
I don't mind doing that.
2017, by the way, Hilton Cartwright last game for Australia.
It is uneven. The pedigree of overseas players is a bit uneven. I'll give you that absolutely. But I'd also say that the quality, the mean quality of overseas is a bit better than it was when it began. I think there's a bit more money to make it slightly more enticing to players, and I think that will only go one way, and I think that'll be reflected in the players that they can attract over the next couple of years. If you look at Manchester Originals, for example, and whenever I talk about the 100, I want it stated that I'm not an apologist for one thing or a defender of another, and there's no caveats to it. I'm simply talking about the cricket that I watch at this point, because all the other conversations, I think they're basically null and void. It is here. It's staying here. That's how it is. August belongs to this. So you look at the Manchester Originals side, right? Now, that's a cricket team that I would want to watch. It's a cricket team that I do want to watch. And you look at the variety and diversity in that cricket team, and it's quite an easy team to sit down, with a drink or a cup of tea or whatever, and enjoy watching that cricket team. And I'll run through it. So you have Phil Salt, who's basically a world star up top. You have Ben McKinney, who opens, who's a brilliant young player, and he may or may not turn out to be an international player, but you want to see him because he's the kind of cricketer that you want to see with a burgeoning reputation. You've got an all-timer at number 3 in Jos Buttler. You've now got Ravindra, who's a favourite of mine, and Klaasen, who's a world star at 4 and 5. You've also got, in the bowling attack, you've got Noor Ahmed as well from Afghanistan. So you have a New Zealander, a South African, and an Afghanistan mystery spinner. You also have in there Sonny Baker, who's the talk of the town, and you have Jimmy Anderson carrying the drinks. What's not to like about that? What's not to like about that? If you just take it purely as sitting down and watching a game of cricket without any of the politics, without any of the attendant gripes and griefs around it, which I understand, and the grievances I respect. I understand it. I don't necessarily agree, but I can respect it. But in the end, when you boil everything down, do you want to watch a game of cricket or not? As someone who is cricket adjacent, I'd want to watch that cricket team. Do I want to watch Northern Superchargers? I do want to watch that cricket team. Oval Invincibles are the best team in it. They're a brilliant collection of very, very good cricketers. And every time they go and play, 27,000 people turn out to watch them. I find that quite persuasive.
But that's the point, right? Very few of the people who watch the 100 actually are concerned about or even know about the kind of underlying arguments with it. Like I'm going to the Oval on Thursday with some friends. If I tried to talk to them about the rights and wrongs of the 100, they would have no clue what I was talking about because they only really follow the 100 and a bit of international cricket. So I almost think it's kind of not the point, these arguments. I understand they're important, but it's not quite the point.
Totally. I went to the Oval on a Sunday afternoon. I took my nephew and my brother-in-law, and he brought a couple of mates along as well. And we sat in a posh area, let's be honest, right? And it was full of kind of kids adjacent to the players and that sort of stuff, I think. But there was a line of Southern boys in Manchester Originals kits because of Buttler, and there was a line of lads in Oval Invincibles kits, and lots of young girls in there as well. And the women's game had taken place earlier on, much better game than the men's. But I was listening to their conversations, and they were having a good old ding-dong about whether this player is better than that player, whether that squad is better than that squad, in the way that, God intended people to talk about sport. And there was no side to it. There was no agenda to it. And there was no, if you like, snidey elements to it. People were just there in the sunshine watching a couple of decent games of cricket. And these allegiances are still quite embryonic, but they are beginning to bed down, I think. And it was interesting that these kids from the South are Originals fans because of Buttler. Now, this is what the IPL has shown you. This is what the Big Bash up to a point has shown you, but especially in the IPL, young followers of the game, they gravitate towards the players rather than the badge, if you like. And then they start to develop their allegiances around those players. And then the love of the team or the franchise comes secondarily after they've got involved with the players. And I was listening to it across the day and talking to a couple of other people as well who I bumped into. And there was a kind of, as you say, Katya, like a sort of low-level optimism around it. There's no other agenda or element at play, really. And I find that quite powerful, really.
Mm.
Where do you stand on it? Wrong question. Not about standing. Do you engage with it on a day-to-day basis?
Well, yeah, but it's my job to.
So you do it transactionally then, professionally?
Yeah, I mean, I got reasonably, into the Graham Clark moment. I was like, actually thinking about it rather than just seeing what's happening. For that last 10 balls, I thought it was really, really good sport. And yeah, I'd say I enjoy it, broadly on the whole. But actually, I think I probably enjoy like the One Day Cup about equally. But then sometimes I'm a bit weird in that I don't mind too much about the quality of the cricket I'm watching as long as it feels meaningful and close. And they both feel about as meaningful, I guess. So yeah.
But it's like sport is about storylines as well, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're following cricket to quite a high degree, as well, sometimes we are. you look at the 100 and you see Sonny Baker take a hat-trick and you're like, right, what does this mean for Ashes? What does this mean for England? Or you see a player who, Graham Clark, for example, he's been around for ages and you're like, that's great in the context of Graham Clark and his career and all that kind of stuff. So if you engage in the storylines, it's just another cricket tournament rather than all the existentialism. And I think the same, I had a note to write down about the Metrobank as well, actually, that the Metrobank has so many young kids in it this year because of the status and all the neglect stuff and the death of 50 over cricket and whatever we want to do it. But actually, when you boil down to it, it's really fun to see a 16-year-old get an ex-England opener out.
It's one of the unintended consequences, isn't it? That the One Day Cups become this kind of curate's egg, but we're quite affectionate for it for the reasons that if you like sport, then there's nothing better than a kid that you've never heard of suddenly emerging and doing it at that kind of level against people who are 10 years older than them. I'm going to Chelmsford tomorrow to see Essex Glamorgan. And I'm going because I want to see Luke Benkenstein bat, who's been brilliant, and I want to see Charlie Allison bat, who's also been brilliant. And they're two 19, 20-year-old kids at Essex. And I'm not going because of the result, because it doesn't really matter too much. But I really want to see those two players in the flesh. So I'm going along tomorrow, and it's become this kind of cute little side hustle, isn't it? Really, of August, but it has value for the reasons that you outline.
One complaint I have about all of England's white ball competitions this season is that for some reason they've changed it to 4 points for a win and 2 points for a tie or no result.
Yeah.
So I keep looking at the tables and thinking teams are much more secure in their positions than they are. Like who's it that's third in the 100 at the moment? So Northern Superchargers are third in the men's table, and they're 4 points ahead of fourth, but that's only one win. And I just don't know why they've done it. It doesn't make any sense. Like if they said, we're going to, make it 2 runs for a single now and double everything up. And it's like, now more runs are being scored and it's more exciting. It's like, well, you just doubled everything.
Yes, those two changes have the exact same impact.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they do. Yeah. So that's my complaint. Anyway, the Metro Bank One Day Cup, which you've already mentioned a bit, Katya, you've got a minute on the Metro Bank, which means not enough time to go through.
No.
That's harsh, man. There's like 9 games a day.
No, yeah. Well, so we don't need to go through every game. We need to just go through the big ones. Your young players, your Manny Lumsdens, your Sam Robsons. Go for it.
Was that preemptive on? Please don't run down everything that's happening in the One Day Cup this week.
Possibly, yes.
Okay. Middlesex chased down 390 against Durham, which was the highest successful List A chase in England. I believe the last one was Worcestershire in 2017. It's really hard to do this when you're staring over my shoulder.
Sorry.
Apparently, for that Durham chase, Yashasvi Jaiswal was in the Durham fan zone before the game. So, I don't know, interesting that he was up in Chester Street.
That's great. I wonder who his Luke Benkenstein and Charlie Allison that he wanted to just go and watch was.
So that was really good. Sussex, there was a really good game in Hove. Sussex chased down 340 with 1 wicket left and 3 balls to spare. There was a big century for Tom Clark. And the number 11, Sean Hunt, so he came in with 3 balls to go and belted his first ball back over the bowler's head to win the game. So that was a really good moment. Word as well, I kind of mentioned him already, but 16-year-old Manny Lumsden, who plays for Hampshire, was born in 2008.
Oh, he's the quick, right?
Yeah. He got both Surrey openers, including Rory Burns, out yesterday. Looks really good, bowling 85 miles an hour at 16 years old. The ball he got Rory Burns with was a kind of awkward length ball that Burns just didn't pick up at all, like top edges it, and then Lumsden takes the catch as well. I liked his celebration to that one as well. Just didn't acknowledge it really, just kind of tossed the ball up. Like, yeah, that's done. That was only his second List A game as well. In his first List A game, he took 3 for. So he's a really exciting talent, and he looks like he's quite quick, but then he also just he's got a really nice kind of flowing run up and action. And it says on his Hampshire kind of profile that his idol is Mikey Holding. So I guess that kind of fits in quite well.
Nice.
A reminder that we have collaborated with Hertfordshire-based brewery Mad Squirrel to revive the Wisden beer range, featuring firstly the Little Wonder, which is a 4.7% pale ale bursting with tropical fruit, layered with aromatic herbs and anchored by a bold, weighty bitterness. The second beer in this short but sweet lineup is the Afternoon Session, which, as the name suggests, is the perfect choice for an easygoing cricketing afternoon. This 3.8% gluten-free pale ale is light, fruity, and effortlessly drinkable. And Phil, it's 1:45 midday, so it's 50 minutes until you can crack into an afternoon session and just have a good old time.
How very dare you.
You can head to Mad Squirrel's website to create your custom packs of 6, 12, or 24 beers with free next day delivery. Find the link in the description below and trust us, you won't be disappointed. On to the world outside of England. There's been a fun series taking place between Australia and South Africa in the northern bits of Australia. The final 2 ODIs in that series are being played in the Great Barrier Reef Arena in Mackay, which is apparently not a tribute to Al Dravid, that name. There's been one...
Lame. Edit that.
How has the...
No, it's fine.
How has there not been an Australian great they called the Great Barrier? There should have been, shouldn't there?
Yeah, fair point, yeah.
There's been one men's ODI played there in history. It was in 1992 between India and Sri Lanka, and it was washed out after 2 balls. So hopefully they've got some better luck this time. That series itself, Tim David hit, this is the T20Is, Tim David hit 83 or 52 in the first game, and then got promoted to number 4 in the second game and hit a 50, which is interesting because he basically before has just faced 5 or 10 balls a game and has had a really good year in T20Is, and there's now a bit of a clamour for another ODI go for him. So let's see.
Yeah, he's a monster, isn't he?
Yeah, it's just big, isn't he?
Nasty piece of work.
Yeah, but good at hitting a cricket ball a long way.
That's what I mean. By the way, for the record. That's what I mean.
Yeah. As is Glenn Maxwell, who won Australia a thriller to win that series. But the innings of the series was Javold Brevis, who hit 125 not out. That was as we were recording last week's pod, and he then made a 50 in the next game, and then made his ODI debut today and had a very fun innings where he hit a 6 first ball and then got out second ball, and he's the first player to ever do that in ODI history in his first game. He's had a very good year after falling away a bit, and that can happen to young players.
Are you watching?
He's the mainstay. Watch highlights and occasionally flick it on if it seems like it's going to be really good. Yeah.
I watched most of the T20 on Saturday.
Nice.
Yeah,
that was a really good
game,
yeah.
Where is it on?
TNT, sorry.
TNT, yeah.
Right.
Head took 4 wickets in that ODI that's going on at the moment as well. He's now got more ODI 4-wicket hauls than our Ashwin.
What, Trav?
Yeah.
Ah, gorgeous.
Yeah, 2 to Ashwin's 1, which is a bit like the Warne versus Tendulkar ODI 5 for stat. But it looks like Australia will lose that game anyway. But also, the thing that I just think watching those series is that those are 2 really, really good white ball teams, and that England, are going to have their work cut out in that series in September, but just in white ball tournaments going forward when there are more good teams.
And if you think about the ODI series as well, South Africa have got quite a lot of their mainstream playing for them. So they're going to have, they're playing now, aren't they? But Bavuma and Maharaj and Markram and all that lot, whereas Australia don't have a lot of theirs available.
Mm-hmm.
And it also is kind of the start of the road to 2027 as well for everyone, but particularly these 2 sides, when you think they're probably going to be 2 of the ODI sides up there like they were in 2023, because Australia beat South Africa in that semi-final. So it actually feels like it's going to be quite a important ODI series to kind of set the path to that, I guess.
Yeah. And the other guy they've got to look out for, and here as well, is Matthew Breitsker, who hit 150 on debut and has got 2 more 50s since, the most ODI runs by anyone ever after 3 games, and after 2 games and after 1 game. So he's ticking those off as he goes. The Asia Cup is coming up soon. Looks like it will go ahead, which I think was the main thing people were wondering, and that Pakistan will play India probably 2, possibly 3 times in that time. So Pakistan have announced their squad. No Babar or Rizwan as per usual, and also no Nazim Shah. India have named their squad. Gill's vice captain. He's not a T20I mainstay, but you fancy he'll go okay. No room for Jaiswal. West Indies had that summit of all the greats, and we talked a bit about last week, but Clive Lloyd in the press conference just looking, very tired and very distraught, but seemed to have worked. They beat Pakistan by 200 runs in that ODI decider. Helps them out a bit for World Cup qualification. Phil mentioned that earlier. So the top 9 qualify. England are 8th, West Indies are 9th, but gives them a bit more breathing room to Bangladesh. And this is fun. Pakistan have named their central contract list for the upcoming year.
Yeah, I heard this.
And brilliantly, there's no one in the top category, which is amazing, isn't it?
So they're all in the B's and the C's?
Yeah, and they've even got a D category. Yeah.
That's class.
Yeah.
But didn't they put a line at the end of the press statement, like reiterating that no one had made the A tier?
I mean, it's real, naughty boy stuff, isn't it? It's like in The Apprentice when the winning team have also messed up so badly that Alan Sugar says you can't have your treat. You're safe for the next week, but you're not going to Goodwood or whatever. It's
Any CPL updates?
I can't remember anything that's happened CPL.
Disappointed. I'm going next week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You and Brian, or just by yourself?
I'm off to Trinidad next week. Yeah.
Lovely.
See a couple of games at the BCL Stadium.
Wow, who is that that's top? ABF. Antigua and Barbuda Falcons are currently
where's
topping
where's
the table.
my Trimbagos? Where are
Trimbagos are because they do that weird thing where they go from like 1 read one island to another island, don't they? So for that reason, ABF and St Kitts and Nevis have both played 3 games, whereas Trinbago have played 1 game. And so those two both played 3 games, and the other 4 have played 1 game each, which is confusing. So that's what's going on in the CPL.
Just looked it up. Colin Munro scored 120 off 57 balls 2 days ago.
He's proper.
T20 Jones. He should have been front and centre of that conversation.
The old Barclays men thing. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, he's a classic.
And that is actually a quick plug for the Patreon, where we had a fun mailbag episode, and someone called us Phil and Ben the Flowerpot Men.
Strong,
which is good.
Strong.
Phil, 2 things that we need from you. First, Salix.
Salix.
Sorry,
Salix.
I've always thought it was Salix.
Everyone's always thought it. Well, it's Salix, folks. And if anyone knows anything about cricket bats, then they know that there is Salix, and then there is an ocean, and then there's everybody else. If you've not had time to visit, this is the reading bit. If you've not had time to visit the Salix Cricket Bat Workshop in Kent, then you'll be pleased to know that they've extended their Saturday fittings to run throughout the year due to high demand. At Butler's Farm, where we all went a few months ago to check it all out for ourselves, it's a stunning place. It's kind of magical, really. You will find at Butler's Farm the Salix Workshop, a well-stocked shop and showroom, and now, get this, the Bat Zone indoor nets run by Calypso Cricket Coaching, where we did our bat test back in the spring. There you'll find a selection of Salix bats of all sizes to try out. The Bat Zone nets can be booked via the Calypso Cricket website. At the workshop, Andrew and Kel, husband and wife team. Andrew is the brains behind Salix. He set it up the best part of 30 odd years ago. He is a master of his trade, and Kel, now his wife, is working alongside him. They will guide you through the bat fitting process and make sure you get the perfect bespoke bat for your game and budget. The Salix shop is manned by Sam, who I think is Kel's son, who will be on hand to help you with pads, gloves, luggage, and finished bat stock. So all the good stuff. Full opening times and details can be found on the Salix website, cricketbatmakers.com. That's cricketbatmakers.com. Honestly, you should go along if you possibly can, because it's a magical experience, and they are lovely people.
So people should go out and buy a cricket bat, and they should go and buy a magazine as well, shouldn't they, Phil?
Yeah,
nice. Why should they do that?
Because it's the finest magazine known to humanity. That's why. Do you want to know what's in it?
Yeah, I would love to.
I'm in it. You're in it. Katya's in it. Washington Sundar's in it. Ravi Bapara's in it. Adya Sharma, Wisden India editor, does a lovely piece on Mohammed Siraj. Adam Collins. This was a fun thing. Adam Collins, the Aussie writer, as I'm sure everyone knows. I got him to write the Aussie view of the summer, because there's a lot of piss being boiled down there in the great beyond, and I'm intrigued as to why this England side so emphatically gets under the skin of our Australian brethren. And so Adam Collins, who, if you like, bestrides both places, he has a foot in both camps, tries to unpick all of that. So that's a really fun read. Sam Dalling, who's become a key part of the show, really key part of the magazine. He's become integral to it all. He goes behind the scenes at the South Asian Cricket Academy, SACA, who are doing extraordinary work. There's a very good documentary actually on Sky, which I saw last night or maybe the night before, talking about the SACA story in the context of South Asian cricketers in English cricket. Check that out if you can possibly get hold of that. Other things, can't remember.
Joe Denley?
Joe Denley, yeah. Joe Harmon speaks to Joe Denley about his career, the highs and lows and the challenges and whatnot. 2 men of Kent getting it on. Yeah, I mentioned Ravi. I interviewed Ravi Bapara on the morning of day 5 at the Oval. Arguably not the best time to be chatting, but we did while watching the cricket on our phones. He's one of my heroes. He's one of your own. He's a great survivor of English cricket, and he's got a good story to tell. He wants to be England coach, by the way. Richard Whitehead, who's got a new book out on the epic 54-5 Ashes series, the Typhoon Tyson series, has done a lovely piece for us on, if you like, Alec Bedser's last hurrah, the final dethroning of Alec Bedser. in the context of that incredible England win down under. And we've run through all the 18 counties in our county files as well, picking out stories across the shires. A few interviews in there as well. Tom Hartley, Eddie Jack, and others. And Tom Westley, Essex skipper, has done a magnificent diary of his month, which is a bit bawdy, a bit cheeky, a bit nudie.
Wow.
And very funny. So all of that stuff, really. Oh, and Joe Root. Yeah, Ben's piece on Joe Root. The numbers behind Joe Root and why Ben thinks he's better than Sachin.
Under
Almost.
23 players as well.
And that mere 8-page monster feature put together by yourself.
And others.
The best 25 young female cricketers. They need to be 23 or under, I think, at the start of August, something like that. And Katya and others have clubbed together to select the best 25. It's a fascinating list. No English player in the top 10.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about that on the Women's Weekly Pod later this week.
Thank you for reminding me, Katya. You see, there's so much a man forgets. There you go. It's all good stuff, and I think it's out Thursday, Wednesday, something like that.
Normally Thursdays.
Thursday it is. It's dead good.
Get it in all good news agents.
I mean, come on, man. Let's get with the 21st century. Just get it online. Do you know what I mean? Just go and get it online. It's out there.
Good.
And a digital version as well, if you prefer your stuff that way these days. Yeah, so print version or digital version, it's all the fun of the fair.
Digital version which Phil reads will read it to you. Is that right?
Well, increasingly, I'm reading more and more of the magazine because obviously I'm a narcissistic egomaniac, and I like the sound of my own voice. And I really do enjoy reading it. So I've read the Ravi piece and the intro to the India series retrospective and the opener as well. Problem is I keep making mistakes, so Dan has to come in and sort of tidy up my ums and ahs and misreads. But yeah, it's good stuff. You get a load of videos in there as well related to the pieces, so it's quite an interactive version on the digital.
Good. Well, a few misreads from me this week, but none, I'm sure, when Yaz is back next week. But yeah, thanks for listening, and we'll see you soon. Cheers.